So my name is David Walsh. I'm from Austin, Texas. And I'm a serial entrepreneur. Been in the telecom business for a long time, since the 90s, early 90s. And since President Clinton signed the Telecommunications Act of 1996, which really created a boom in innovation, created a boom in innovative business models. I spent some time with several different telecommunications companies, and one was Teleport Communications Group, which actually bought a company called SurfNet, which was Vince Cerf's original company, and it was really when the internet really became productized, and since then it's been rapidly increasing. Like as we see it today, I mean, things are quickly changing, and then I ended up moving from a couple of different telcos to another, learning different pieces of the business. I became fascinated with the industry, and ended up at Enron Broadband. I don't know if you guys remember Enron, but Enron Broadband was a unique company. I learned a lot there. It was very innovative in terms of interesting finances, and very innovative in terms of making markets and actually opening up new markets. And they actually opened up broadband and broadband trading, which was very interesting at the time because it wasn't very liquid. And but there I really learned the ability to take a concept and then apply it with a go-to-market application. And from there, I started a company called Global Capacity, which grew to be quite a nice, large company, and ended up, back. I just added a couple slides for us. So anyway, from there, I started a company called Global Capacity. We traded broadband. We ended up taking a position, created a nice sized company, ended up selling to enterprise and a lot of the US-based carriers and then international carriers. Ended up exiting that business in 2006. Started a company called Starview Solutions, which was a unified communications platform. That's where I met my CTO, Evan Hunt, who's in the room. And we ended up creating a software infrastructure that automated voice over IP services. And at the time, basically developing and putting together and provisioning voice over IP was very difficult. It was like alphabet soup. It was like trying to put things together. And we ended up spinning that software out that we developed, and then we created a platform called Shango Unify, which was at the time when a lot of these carriers are we felt like we could go and save the world with, go and bring in our platform to the carriers, and that we'd tie all these applications to the number, and compete on a similar level with Twilio. And that was a little bit when Twilio was just getting going. And Evan came out, and I think it was in Istanbul when he spoke at TAD Summit around tying applications to the number, and creating interesting use cases and making the carrier relevant again. And when that was a long haul, we traveled all over the world, meeting with all kinds of different carriers. And I think it was a little bit before its time, because telcos don't have any concept of time. They're basically slow. And so anyway, we ended up moving on from Shango about a year and a half ago. And since then, I spent a lot of my time working in these different accelerators in Texas. One's called Capital Factory, which, so I'm around a lot of different types of technologies, and I help mentor startups. And so with that, I wanted to go ahead and let you guys know who I was. I'm very grateful to be here, and I've got a little confession to make. Alan said that, hey, you're going to talk about programmable telco in the enterprise, and I'm like, well, shit. Okay, how do I come up with that? So I was like, working on these slides and these decks, and I literally spent hours and hours on this one deck, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. They're going to totally get it. It's like, you're going to know what CPaaS is, and then da-da-da-da-da. And, well, you guys already know what CPaaS is. Problem is nobody outside of this room, not very many people understand what CPaaS is. And trying to explain that to, my wife, which thinks I'm crazy, it's just programmable telco. You can make things work with, your number and everything like that. And, it's interesting to see what's happening in the space. And so, one of the things, what the hell? Why does that keep coming up? It keeps, oops, I'm just chopping up my presentation here. This is what I wanted to show you guys. You guys know that scene? You guys seen that scene? There you go. Oop. You guys see Blade Runner 2049? Not yet. Not yet? Well, you should. I mean, this is a hell of a scene right here, because it's a prostitute basically trying to get Blade Runner to come hook up with her. And this is only 30 years from now. I mean, where are we going? It's like, we're all in this room talking about different types of technologies, different types of bots, chat bots, AR, blockchain, all kinds of different things. And this movie blew my mind. I really highly suggest you guys see it, because it shows in such great use cases around what we're doing and what we're building, which is, artificial intelligence, which is rapidly accelerating. AR, VR. I wonder really what happens after he says, yeah, I'll go with you. And she's kind of big, but but anyway, I wanted to get that point across that, just thinking about, I built this whole slide around, where things are going. And honestly, I don't know where things are going. I hope it's better than what the outcome is in 2049, because it doesn't. It's kind of scary at the same time. But there's this thing called, people talk about the singularity. You guys ever heard of that? Yeah, where technology meets up with the brain power of humans, and which is only like 20 years away, which is pretty fascinating how fast things are accelerating. And so enough of my altruistic perspectives, but so this is one of the things that a quote I saw a guy speak at this thing called the Scale Up Summit in St. Louis a couple weeks ago. A guy named Ryan Holiday, which wrote "The Ego is the Enemy," and he also wrote "The Obstacle is the Way." And that is certainly the case in being in a startup or an entrepreneur, or actually introducing a new type of application to the market, because you're going to run into obstacles. It's like, how do you avoid? How do you get over that? So I was, ran across this quote, which really means a lot to me, because it's like, where are we going as a species? Where are we going as an industry? And, where most companies fail is because they're not willing to change. And that goes for people too. It's adapting to change. It's actually, creating or looking at where there's areas of where the industry is going, and there's a lot of companies out there, the telcos. Some are striving to cross that chasm. But anybody know who quoted this? Darwin. There you go. You get a free sticker. So, excuse me. So So you guys never heard of VoIP Innovations. So after leaving Shango, I ended up with a friend of mine that actually started a great company in the U.S. and they're predominantly North American based. And at the same time we were building, when I had my company Starview, we were collaborating on what we needed to do to automate the back office so that we could scale. And because a lot of times in unified communications companies actually get to a point, this has happened a lot in the BroadSoft community, has actually gotten to a point where they kind of cap out. And that's because there's not any kind of automation, no kind of API exposure. They're not able to accelerate and rapidly onboard new customers quickly. So we had collaborated, his name's Jason Taplesy, and they ended up developing and building a great business. And after Shango, when I was actually working at the Capital Factory doing a lot of mentoring, he and I hooked up again last summer and started saying, let's do something interesting. Let's go, acquire a company. And so we ended up trying to acquire a company. Didn't work out, but we ended up getting a good deal, and we ended up starting a mobile-first communications company called Vocally. It's called Vocally.io, which is like Google Voice for business. And then ultimately he said, "Look, I want to meet you. I want you and Evan to meet with our board of directors and owners." And so we flew up to Pittsburgh and ended up meeting with them. And I was, letting them know where the market was going. They said, "Well, next week they flew everybody down, the whole management team down, and then they're kind of like, oh my gosh, the market is changing. We need to change." And so they asked me to come on board and run the company, help reposition it for the future, to accelerate its growth. And in doing that, I'm getting to my punchline, which is my friends back there with Apidaze, but I'll get that up ahead here. But I'm going to give you a little bit of background around VoIP Innovations. So it's an aggregator of phone numbers. It predominantly sells to, we've got over 2,000 ITSPs and MSPs that are our customers in the US, mostly in North America. We have a fully automated TN orchestration platform, which is, in a lot of cases, when Twilio was starting out, and they might not even have one yet, they were talking to us about leveraging our TN orchestration platform that we developed at Starview, and they're at the time using Excel spreadsheets. I'm sure they've solved this problem by now, because actually aggregating interconnections and integrating with a lot of different telcos is very difficult to do. A lot of them are antiquated APIs. You're not able to query the telephone number database quickly, and it basically. So this is something that was very important for Jason Taplesy at VoIP Innovations to develop, which created a huge. They ended up creating a great channel, a lot of customers coming to them. They're very similar to, I don't know if anybody in this room has heard of bandwidth.com in North America. Well, bandwidth.com sells numbers to Twilio and to Google and everybody else. Well, we actually sell numbers to companies like Plevo and some others like that are out there. So when they asked me to come on board, one of the things that I wanted to do was actually get them in a position of really creating a programmable, making their network programmable, basically, which given them the capability of same kinds of things that Rescom and Telestacks has been doing for years, is actually going out and helping enabling different carriers like VoIP Innovations to create that kind of capability that a Twilio is doing and Nexmo is doing. And a lot of these companies, especially in the U.S. And I'm sure here, are now starting to realize, especially telcos, are now starting to realize that, if they don't modify and augment or even create some kind of capability for programmable telco, they're going to become obsolete, and they're basically going to be, pipe, which a lot of them are already going that way. But so the company's been in business for over 10 years. We have a showroom, which is which I think is a big differentiator for us, is something where we will allow people to develop off the Apidaze API, and then be able to market that to our channel, which is a big deal because a lot of applications, a lot of startups don't have a channel to sell through, and that's the golden ticket, was actually getting app developers to work with a telco to basically sell down to their distribution channel, because they all have a distribution channel and they're all looking to upsell their channel. But how they do that, which is interesting because we actually will integrate using the CPaaS layer, but we'll also sell products that aren't connected to the CPaaS layer. And so that's a little bit. So we've got a strong network in the US. So here comes my Apidaze, is where we ended up bringing on Louis and Philippe. Didn't bring them on completely, but we bought the platform, and the idea was, out there looking around whether or not we should partner, build, or own, and gone down the road of building before, and that's always time-consuming, and partnering was an option, and it still is an option in some areas, because this isn't an area where I see that the industry is a very big industry, and there's lots of capability to collaborate with each other, and we want to monetize the channel that we have, which is over 2,000 ITSPs and MSPs in the U.S. We want to expand internationally, and but bringing a great platform on like Apidaze and two great guys to work with, Louis and Philippe, that have been part of this community for since its beginning, I believe. Is that right? They developed some amazing WebRTC technology, WebRTC APIs, and it's been a great partnership so far. I actually came on board over at VoIP Innovations back in June, and we literally just said, one of the first things I did is we need to go ahead and acquire Apidaze, and so we went ahead and did that, and then moved forward from there. So again, I think our key differentiators is that predominantly we've been a wholesale provider where we would enable companies to come into our back office, white label our platform. We've got an end user white label capability and amazingly, a lot of our customers don't even have their own switches. They'll actually come buy numbers, and they'll provision an endpoint on our platform. So it's a unique multi-tenanted platform that gives VoIP Innovations the ability to scale, and we're looking to do that. And another thing that it really does that's really interesting as a differentiator for us is a lot of aggregators, companies, like we buy a number from Twilio. You don't know really where that number came from. You have no idea where that number came from. It could have come from bandwidth, or it could have come from Verizon or Telefonica or wherever, worldwide. We actually provide transparency for the application developer or the partner on what carrier it is. They can actually do a query for the number. They can pick and choose which carrier they want to write it on. Got a question now? 2 minutes? Man, that went fast. Sorry, I'm blabbing. So bring it on home. Take it for landing here. So I've got a couple more slides, but I'm gonna slim it down here because I'm babbling. Our three-tiered approach, very simple. We've got a channel. We're looking for partners that are looking to monetize a channel. We're looking to expand. We're looking for partners in Europe, looking for partners in Asia, and we're also looking to basically enable and help application providers to basically sell and go down and allow us to sell to our distribution channel. A lot of things that are happening in the space, especially in the U.S., is things, it's a commodity business. UCaaS is a commodity. The prices are going down, and a lot of these companies that are selling to end users are looking for new products to sell and to stay relevant. And one of the ways we're doing that is through our partnership with Apidaze and our Programmable Telco, and through our showroom, where we're actually going to be co-branding, co-marketing these different types of applications to our base. And that's all she wrote. Thanks, guys.
Excellent. Thank you so much, David. I think this highlights a very important point that we're seeing in the evolution of the API business, that it's not about the API. API is only part of the story, and you can see the staircase of commitment from the service through configuration to the actual API itself. And there's going to be a journey for some of the enterprises where they get to the API. There'll be some where they never get that far. They only focus on the configuration, and others that only get to use that the service. So that I thought was great. We can take one quick question. Okay, at the back there, Sasha, just hang on a sec. Let me just pass the speaker to you.
Hey, I thought that was a great presentation.
No,
just a quick question. Are you guys currently an agency or a reseller of services, and do you do things like least cost routing across multiple carriers?
Yes, we aggregate different carriers, and we take a position. So when a customer is buying numbers or the services, we're actually we're taking a position. We're actually they're buying it directly from us, and then we buy it from the carrier. Yes, registered carrier.
Yeah, I mean, they have their own network.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, they're sort of like an ex-VNO, but they have sort of their own infrastructure as well. So you've got your POPs in a whole number of data centers and interconnect. Right. So it's quite an interesting model here, where we're seeing what is essentially a carrier, just a little bit on the virtual side, is adopting its own CPaaS and using that to drive into its channel a whole host of new services. But we need to move on. Right. Again, thank you so much, David.
Thank you, guys.
So Kevin, if you would come on down.
Oh, shit, you need that one.